What's good, everyone? It's your boy Kenny, and welcome to another episode inside the Kenny's Corner. And boy, do we have a banger for you today. Man, last week was, let me tell you something, those defenses, they stepped up when they needed to. Um, you know, a lot of defense being played and led to many points and some crazy games. And also, unfortunately, the injury bug hit a lot of people last week. So we're going to dive all right into that. But first things first, I want to start with some 3 records that were actually broken over this past weekend. We had nine defense and special teams touchdowns. 9 defensive / special team touchdowns. That is the most in the NFL in 1 week. So that was pretty crazy actually, and credit to and I'll dive into this more, but credit to Isaiah Rodgers there with getting 2 of those from the Vikings. So that was props to him and props to the Vikings as well. Another historical record we had is the Colts. They finally are human. They finally punted their first time, but it is the most games without a single punt, which was 3. Most games without a punt, 3 games. So that is actually incredible. The Colts are definitely, we'll get into it because of their schedule, but are they for real this year? We'll talk about that. And next, 7 games were decided by 1 score. That is the most in the NFL in 1 week. So 3 records broken, and some pretty good football being played. First, we'll just jump right into it then. First things first, we'll start with the standings here. Jumping right in. So over on the east side, we have Jerking Off Dan with the solid 3-0, our commissioner. Props to the commissioner. And then followed by him in second place is Don't Go Aching My Heart in Corey. And then followed by them is For the Love of Don Cheadle Forever, and Daniel Dones. And then Vinny Bishop Sycamore at 0-3. Hasn't yet. The only team yet to get a win. But still plenty of weeks left. That could always change. And moving on over onto the west side, we got myself also at 3-0. Bikini Bottom Mobile Bass 2-1. And then the rest of the folks, Tybo, and Trayvon, all at 1-2. So, some pretty good football played, injuries, though, that happened last week really are going to affect, future games. And that is why we also had our first trade of the season as well. So we will dive right into that. So let's look at some of the recent activity. So we did have a trade go through. It was between myself and Don Cheadle, Shane. The trade was Bill, Xavier Worthy, and Javonte Williams for Omarion Hampton and Cedric Tillman. Now, just analyzing the trade itself, I definitely... It was needed for both sides, let's say that, I'm thinking. This definitely puts it, it gets the replacement running back for Hampton. It then also provides some depth for Shane and, provides us some additional flex options as well if needed. As for me, it gets me an upgraded flex. I would absolutely take Hampton over Javonte and secures my flex position pretty much for the rest of the year. So, I think overall it was a good trade. Definitely needed for the both of us. And yeah, So, congrats, first trade. Congrats, Shane. Thank you again for your business. But here we go. Let's jump right into the. Well, let's jump right into the scoreboard here. Let's go to week 3. All right, so taking a look here. Some very high scoring matchups as well. So let's start with the highest scoring game. We'll go between Corey and Vinny. I think Vinny also had another battle with BMAC. Vinny's been putting up, and it's really unfortunate. Vinny being 0-3, it doesn't feel like a true 0-3 because I think week 1, BMAC had beat him, but like it was also another very high scoring game. It's just tough that Vinny's putting up all these points, but people are just putting up more. There's nothing we can really do about it. So, looking at the scores though, congrats to Corey. 151. That's incredible. And just taking a look at the games here. Steelers. Yeah. What I want to mention is the defenses balled out this week, and this is why I stress defenses are important. Very, very well job by Corey here. His kicker even put up 20, Chase McLaughlin. But man, James Cook, he's solidifying himself. Like, this isn't 21, 26, 20. He was a great player last year, but this year, fantasy-wise, he's really taken a step up into that top 5 talk. So it's great to see James Cook do that. Puka being the number 1 receiver, you wouldn't have expected that, right? No, Puka's putting up numbers, 23, 27, 22. Great to see Puka, not get affected by the presence of Devontae Adams. Matthew Stafford still looking his way, still trust him as his clear number 1, and that's really great to see for Puka. And finally, Nico Collins, you drafted him probably could have been late first round, early second round for Nico. Finally gets in the finally gets his share here. Gets in the end zone. 11 targets, 8 catches for 11 targets for 22 fantasy points. That Texans, and I think they still took the L. Right? They still took the L, but it was great to see Nico get in the end zone. That Texans team is struggling right now. CJ Stroud is it's really having a tough time. Hopefully they could kind of turn it around, but that's great to see Nico, and hopefully that they could build up on that. Another one to really talk about is Rome Odunze, number 3 fantasy wide receiver, 15, 31, and 15. He's really balling, and the Bears, with the addition of Ben Johnson, are really stepping up to the plate. So, and you could see the difference. So they are putting out fantasy numbers. Ben Johnson's letting Caleb toss that ball, man. Let me tell you, I've seen some plays. He was tossing that ball, especially against Dallas, unfortunately. But so great to see. Corey's team right now is looking very solid. And I mean, he's even got a nice bench. He's got Quentin Johnson on the bench. I mean, after the first 3 weeks, Corey's team is looking a little scary. So that's wow, yeah. So, moving on over to Vinny's team here. Christian McCaffrey, listen, no Purdy, no problem, because McCaffrey is still balling. He will still continue to ball. He is the elite. When he is healthy, he is the best fantasy player ever. A PPR machine. He didn't even get in the end zone, and he still had 24 fantasy points. 10 catches, 10 receptions he had for 88 yards. He had more receptions than rushing yards. So I'm telling you, it was a great gamble that Vinny took, and as long as he stays healthy, that's going to be huge. Man, the thing with Saquon, something's weird going on with those. The Eagles players in fantasy right now, probably besides Hurts, it's a really weird thing. like this game, like last week, it was, AJ Brown had 20, 22, and then Devontae had 20. Saquon had 9. So it seems like this year for the Eagles, it's going to be based off of like game script, really. And that really is how it is for every fantasy game, I guess. But you know, it seems different. Saquon isn't getting what he's used to get. I think offenses are finally, you know, seeing this and like, because I would trust if I were Philly, I would trust the run more than the pass. So this is definitely very uncommon for Saquon because last year he got you minimum 18, I think, like every game. Like I'm not even kidding. So definitely uncommon for Saquon, but it's really going to be dependent on how the game goes. So yeah, great to see Jordan Mason come in for Aaron Jones, get him the 2 touchdowns. They absolutely destroyed Cincinnati. Definitely an RB2 going forward for Jordan. So that's a really good pickup by Vinny there. And one of the unfortunate injuries this year that happened was James Conner. It was brutal. It was a brutal injury. Tore his Achilles. Well, I guess, no, actually that was his foot. My bad, his foot. But he's out for the year, done for the year. That makes definitely Trey Benson a high waiver wire target, which we will get to the waiver wire, of course. But really sad to see James Conner. That man's a workhorse 3-down back. Pretty good he's usually good for a touchdown a game. So, little unfortunate there, but that's unfortunately how the business is. But overall, a very good game from both teams. Corey's team's looking a little scary, so especially if they put up numbers like that. So, all right. Alrighty, moving on to our blowout matchup of the week. If I had done my math right, um, which actually, ironically, there were 2, but mine was a little bit more. So the blowout matchup of the week, myself taking on Nick, and Nick is gonna hate this because him and his solid B rating, you know what I mean? But I mean, second worst points of the week. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna stop. Yes. So myself taking on Nick was the matchup of the week, the biggest, the blowout of the week. So we'll start over on Nick's side here. Little disappointing performances by a couple of these people. Genti with 6. I think it's a panic time for Genti. That Raiders offense it's struggling right now. Pretty much everyone besides the receivers. It's a pretty big struggle for Genti here. I think there was a stat where like he has like 144 total yards, but then like 145 something about contact yards or something, yards before contact or yards after, yeah, something like that. I don't remember. It was a bad stat though. But yeah, it's tough because you see Genti in college and that man is putting up 200 plus yard games, but it's a different ball game. So really unfortunate for Genti. I'm really hoping he has a better with a better year. He's got a good chance against Chicago, one of the worst defenses right now. But if he doesn't perform there, it's panic mode for Genti, and that's unfortunate because a lot of people spent their first round pick on him because they thought he was going to be what he was. So, well, it's a risky take. Yeah, and taking a look at least one of the positives, we got for Nick's team is JSN. JSN is really, Cooper Kupp, I haven't even seen. Who is that, right? Like on this offense? Like, who is that? It is all JSN. Definitely Sam Darnold's favorite target by far. 20.6 fantasy points he just had. Only 6 targets and a touchdown, but it's really interesting how like the target depth. But it's because they could rely on the run game against the Saints. They destroyed them. But 5 catches, 6 targets, and a touchdown. It was a long touchdown, so that was really nice to see for JSN. 20 points. Really great to see. He's definitely a high end wide receiver 2 with wide receiver 1 upside for the most part. I mean, ranked 5th, you could probably put him as a wide receiver 1 at this point. So, and what are then going on next? Ladd McConkey. The 3 receivers for the Chargers, they're all very startable. Quentin Johnson, Keenan, and Ladd. But I think Ladd is probably right now the weakest one, unfortunately. And you would think, he's supposed to be their wide receiver 1 technically. So I think they're putting a lot more focus on Ladd. And they're probably using Ladd a lot more like in the, on slants and things like that. And because of the emergence of Quentin Johnson, it's probably taking a lot more, targets for Ladd to Quentin. So, so it's a little unfortunate for Ladd, but I think he'll be okay. He'll have better games for sure. It was also against Denver. He was probably being guarded by Surtain, which definitely makes sense. But yeah, a positive note, that I'm sure Nick will probably change is Cam Scatterbo will now become the bell cow for the Giants after Tyrone Tracy's injury. So, yeah, with Tyrone Tracy's injury, Cam played very well. Stepped in, got himself a touchdown. He had 24 fantasy points, 10 carries, a touchdown, 60 yards. Even in the passing game, 6 catches for 61 yards. So, the next McCaffrey, question mark? No, but you're definitely starting Cam for sure. He is, he'll be the bell cow for sure. And another injury to kind of monitor is Scary Terry McLaurin. He has a quad injury, and the latest update we have he's getting like multiple opinions about this. He really is. So his status for week 4 is in doubt. So we're not really sure what's going on with Terry McLaurin, just the quad injury they're saying, but they got to figure out how significant it is and things like that. So, more to come on Terry McLaurin. Hasn't really put up a great performance anyway, the last 3 games, so it's been rough for him. Debo has really taken the reins of that, of that offense. And J.D. Daniels was out last week too, so you have Mariota. So it was, and who knows? So little scary for a little unfortunate for Terry McLaurin. And prayers to him because he's a great player, and he deserves to be a target whore pretty much. All right, and then moving over onto my side here. Let me talk about Jonathan Taylor at first, man. The number 1 running back right now. Had 3 touchdowns. And even was working the receiving game a little bit. For 17 carries for 102 yards. He broke free for a 46-yard touchdown against the Titans. These 2 defenses are pretty nasty when it comes to the run game. So he is matchup proof, high-end RB1. You're starting him no matter what. A little bit disappointment from league neighbors, though. And this also comes for them, the Giants making a change and starting Jackson Dart over Russ. So that's interesting. We'll see how that'll affect Malik Neighbors. But only 3.3 fantasy points. He wasn't even targeted. I think he was targeted once the first half. It was really rough, a rough game for the Giants. They were very successful in the run game, but passing game not as much. So I think Russ threw a couple picks. It was a rough game for Russ. I think his ego got to him with the Cowboys game where he was like, chuck it, Neighbors is there, and that's what he kept doing. And yeah, it was poor decision making by him. Another one, and really big, really with the injury to CeeDee Lamb, Pickens, and now Jake Ferguson. Man, look at this I just want to show this for a tight end. 14 targets and 13 catches for a tight end. That's talking about Jason Witten status, all reliable. But Jake Ferguson is the number one tight end currently at the moment. He had 21 fantasy points. Absolutely, absolutely a stud when it comes to that. And it's great to see that Ferguson is going to probably become the night that he's a safety blanket for Dak, but with the injury to CeeDee, we'll see what happens with that. So, and Javonte, which I have already traded away, still put up 12 points. So overall, very good. It was a great matchup. And Nick, I'm sorry, man, but it's all good. It's only week 4. You got plenty of time. So we'll move on to the next matchup here. We got Ant taking on Trayvon, another blowout. This one was a 51-point blowout. Actually, so yeah, mine was 53. This was 51. And just looking at the game, we'll start over on Trey's side. And it's very unfortunate for Trayvon, actually. That Cincinnati offense, man, Cincinnati got absolutely blown to bits, 48-10, and I'll talk about that. That Vikings defense, Jake Browning wasn't going anywhere, and it's really unfortunate Joe Burrow's injury because you could see the effect it's had. Jamar Chase 8.9, Chase Brown 6. It's not looking good for the Bengals offense right now. They have such talent, such amazing talent, but if you don't got your QB, I mean, Jake Browning's done it. He's done it before, but that's every year is different, right? So, very unfortunate for the Browns offense, or the Bengals offense, apologies. And hopefully he could turn it around, this coming week. Brock Bowers, he, not used to what you're seeing for Brock. He's, 9 points, 8 points, 15. I mean, like I said, it's that Raiders offense. It's a struggle except Trey Tucker, apparently. So, I think Brock Bowers can't really hide anymore. That's really why. People are realizing, what a threat he is. So it's affecting his fantasy output. But yeah, overall that was, I mean, your highest scorer was Tony Pollard, and then your defense, and then Bo Nix. So it's that's rough. It was a rough outing for Trayvon, but hopefully he's got a better week ahead of himself. But moving on over to Ant. Ant, congratulations on your first win too. Lamar put up a fantastic effort. And that Detroit game, that was a fun game to watch. I watched that game. That was a fun game. 27 points for Lamar. He's in the running for MVP again, just how he is. And look at that. Didn't I mention it last week? Ken Walker. He had 18 points, 18 fantasy points, 16 carries for 38 yards, 2 touchdowns. Was Zach Charbonnet out? Ken Walker took the hold, and it definitely prevailed. So I'm telling you, it makes a difference when people if you're doing like a committee, it really makes a difference. But yeah, so, and of course, it's one of those things where it's like, you bench AJ Brown, he puts 22. It's it's tough. It's tough, one of those things. But it was. If I had to say, was it the smart play? Definitely was. Maybe you could have benched Tyreek, but Tyreek gave you 15. He still did solid for you. And Keenan Allen looking very well, very for his age, looks very well in that Chargers offense. Right back home, So overall, great showing from the Bronx Bombers here. Justin Jefferson, with the way you drafted him, would he put up the same numbers with, if J.J. McCarthy was in the lineup? We don't know. J.J.'s only played, one game, and he hurt himself, so it's tough to figure out J.J., right? J.J. does right now, but overall, great matchup. But let's move on to the We'll move on to the nail biter, quote unquote, the closest matchup, I should say, and that's between Dan and Don Cheadle forever. So 7 points win by Dan. That actually came, if I'm not mistaken, Shane was on his way to win that until the biggest injury of the week. It's very unfortunate for myself being a Cowboys fan. But yeah, CD hurt, high ankle sprain. They're going to evaluate him in 10 to 14 days. But they're saying he's probably about 3 to 4 weeks. So we'll see if he needs to be require more time. He hasn't been put on IR yet. I think they're going to do those additional tests to see. But this is a big hit to the Cowboys offense and even to Shane's fantasy team. So, this obviously will help Pickens and Ferguson, Tolbert, all those guys, obviously see more targets. But very unfortunate, and honestly, he probably could have won if CD didn't get hurt and had 0 for him. So, very unfortunate. It's such a huge hit for him, but hopefully with the trade that was done with myself, this will help a little bit until he gets CD back in action. And Omarion Hampton, that's going to be a clear de facto number one for the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh's run first, offense. With Najee Harris's injury, another injury, yeah. So Omarion Hampton will definitely become the clear cut running back for them, and should be a big boost to his fantasy production. Another one we want to talk about is Jaden Daniels. Going over onto Dan's side here. Jaden Daniels was out this game and could potentially be out next game. They're saying he's still day-to-day. The way Mariota played, if you want to not rush Daniels, you don't really have to. So, we'll see what happens with that. Another guy to keep a lookout is Chris Godwin. With, unfortunately, the injury to Mike Evans. 3 to 4 weeks, Mike Evans ankle sprain. That's another big hit, big injury. But this right now will make Egbuka absolutely the number one target for the Buccaneers at the moment. If Godwin comes back, they'll probably ease his way in, is what I'm thinking. Strong chance of of playing, and will be a big boost, for drafting him when he did. So this could really help Dan out here. So look at everybody. His highest scoring was the Seattle defense. And what did I tell you about defenses? You play the defense. So congrats, Seattle's defense against the Saints had 17 fantasy points. Very nice. Bijan was. It really is amazing to me. Bijan, the Falcons got obliterated. They benched Penix. They benched Penix for Kirk Cousins, right? They benched him. He still has 16 fantasy points. It's still production day by getting blown out 30-0. So it just goes to show you how important Bijan is to this offense. I mean, they were literally I can't believe they got blown out by the Panthers like that. That was pretty crazy. So, and he still had a great game, but yeah, they benched Penix. And honestly, like the way Atlanta's been playing, do you turn to Kirk Cousins now? I mean, we'll have to see. But overall, close game. Very unfortunate for Shane that he had to lose CD. Really sucks, especially being the number 2 pick in the draft this year. So hopefully, some of his other players step up. He's still got Josh Allen, still got his boy Tyler Warren. He's now got Javonte, Worthy, and Bill. So, hopefully Worthy can come back and, healthy. And so we'll hopefully things will turn a good corner for Shane and he can hold off until CD comes back. All right, moving on to the final game here would be the Bubble Bass take it on Tybo. Congrats, Tybo, on your first win. Bubble Bass, sorry for the L there, but it is what it is. So moving on, we'll take a look here. Daniel Jones, 15 points. Solid outing. Man, those Colts are for real. 41-20. But like I said, looking at if you look at the schedule, think about it. Are they for real or not? They have played Miami, Denver, and Tennessee. Biggest test is next week. If they could beat the Rams by this much, the way they're doing, they're for real. They're absolutely for real, and they'll be a scary team to force. Scary force. But man, let's talk about Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, man. 26 fantasy points. 30 fantasy points, or 29.4 fantasy points for David Montgomery, who's on my team. Man, that is a duo right there. One of the best duos so far. Absolutely incredible. And that's a force to be reckoned with, those two. So great showing for Gibbs, and he got a win against Baltimore. Big win. So yeah. So moving on over to Tybo, and look at the Vikings defense. Look at that. The trust in your own team. 32 fantasy points. That is the most. That's between the matchup. That's the most scoring. A defense outscored everyone. Out of the two teams. So give credit. They had 2 pick sixes, fumbles. Jake Browning wasn't going anywhere. So man, credit to Tybo. 32 fantasy points. Isaiah Rodgers. Shout out to him. And this is why it's important. You need a good defense. So, it's super important to have, so is Mark Andrews back is the question mark. That's all people want to know. I don't think so, but overall, great showing. Amon-Ra, stud, absolute stud. This is the injury. Mike Evans, here we go. Tybo had him. 3 to 4 weeks, very unfortunate. So, Tybo will have to fill the void. Jordan Addison does come back, so hopefully, we see some, Carson Wentz will air it his way a little bit. But overall, great win, Tybo. Great way to trust in your Vikings defense. And yeah, Jalen Hurts 29. I remember I mentioned to you, BMAC, starting Daniel Jones. He says for the minute he does bad. So yeah, it's all good. It is what it is. But yeah, but Judkins now will be coming back, or not coming back. He'll be the starter. And Egbuka, very very good. So you'll be good going forward there BMAC. This is just the 1L. It's just unfortunate his defense at 32. So all right. So moving on to our waiver wires for the week. All right, look at the waiver report here. All right. So for this week, this is the waiver report. Trayvon added Jordan Love and dropped Kyle Pitts to waivers. Jordan Love because Bo Nix, I see why he did Jordan Love, just to get that little backup in case Nix has poor performances again. Don Cheadle forever, pick up the Broncos defense. Definitely one I was going to be interested in. Their defense, I think they're playing this week. They're playing the Bengals, so completely understand. Why you would pick that up and the way the Bengals been playing. Yeah, it's been rough. So that's a great pickup there. Definitely a great pickup for the Broncos defense. And you can see that Dan and I even tried to get him, but we couldn't. It looks like Tybo picked up Sterling Shepard and dropped J.J. McCarthy. You would have thought you would never see that, but unfortunately he did. Sterling Shepard definitely will have a uptick probably in use with the injury to Mike Evans. So I would probably label him as like the wide receiver 3 and or 2 depending on Godwin's status. So a solid pickup. The Bubble Bass went and picked up Hunter Henry, who is the 3rd ranked tight end. The tight end position is so thin that honestly, yeah, I would say he's probably very well as a low end tight end 1, maybe high end tight end. Tight end 2. So it's yeah. He's had these years of booming and busting. But look, he had 29 points last game, 11 targets. Hunter Henry's always been that kind of that wit and that safety blanket for whoever's quarterbacking for him. He's definitely probably the number 1 target for Drake May and the Patriots right now, because Stephon Diggs, I don't even know what's going on with him. So that's a solid pickup. Definitely an upgrade to your tight end situation there, BMAC. So very good, very nice pickup. Drop strange. I did actually add in Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker is currently the wide receiver 4 right now. Just as a, after the trade there, I wanted to kind of add in another wide receiver, quote unquote, as in depth. And, he's pretty much a boom or bust option. So, we'll see what happens. But if the connection's there, if he could drop another game like that, look at that game. He had 9 targets, 8 catches for 145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That is, the number 4 wide receiver right now. So it's pretty crazy. Looks like Trayvon added in the Rams defense. Rams are going up against the Colts this week. So we'll see how that plays out. And couldn't get the Texans defense. Okay. So that's the waivers this week. Not too much really activity. Definitely some really important pickups though. I say the most important one probably is B-Max. Definitely puts an upgrade in his tight end position, and Shane's with the defenses, like I've said. So, um, let's look into the matchups really quick for this coming week. All right. Week 4. Let's start with probably the matchup of the week. It's going to be myself versus Dan. We are both 3-0, so we will only have one more undefeated team left by the end of this week. So we will see what happens. Let's take a look at the matchup here. So currently, I have a 53% chance of winning this, but with us being 3-0, you really never know what could happen. So, as you can see here, the trade was successful, went through. So Armarian Hampton has become my flex, and I have traded away Bill, Xavier Worthy, and Javonte Williams. So they were very important. Javonte Williams, definitely the steal of the draft for sure. But yeah. So looking at the matchup here, big question mark is Jaden Daniels this week. Is he going to be able to play? If not, then it looks like he's got Dak as his backup QB, which will only help me because I have 2 Cowboys players. But hopefully Jaden Daniels will play for him. Bijan against Washington should feast. We got Jacoby Myers and Pittman. Pittman is finally playing up into himself. But with that Colts offense, you really never know. So, yeah. So, if I'm going to lean any way here, man, this is a tough one. I really want to lean probably towards it, just like matchup based towards Dan, because I got 2 Cowboys players and they're going up against Green Bay, and Green Bay's defense is very solid right now. So, Dan definitely has a good chance of beating me. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And yeah, we'll find out Sunday night. Actually, we have no Monday games or anything, so we will find out who will take the first L. And this should be a dog of a matchup. It should be a good one. So looking forward to it, Dan. Good luck. All right, moving on to our next matchup here. We have Tybo taking on Ant here, the 1 and 2s. Like I said, really unfortunate with Mike Evans being out. That definitely hurts the lineup too. But it looks like Jordan Addison will be coming back, and then he also added in Sterling Shepard. So and he's got Amon-Ra, so and Jared Goff. So let me tell you, if they ever put up 50 points and they target these 3, that's I see what he did there. That's a smart play there, Tybo. Very good. Moving on over to Ant's side, you got Lamar. That's a great matchup. Chiefs and Ravens should be good. Keenan Allen should definitely feast. That Chargers offense should definitely feast against the Giants. Giants defense is a little brutal right now, so we'll see. Hopefully Tyreek can put a better outing in. Definitely at this point in his career, probably a flex option. And he has him as a flex, which makes sense. So, but we'll see. So it looks like, I don't know if he's changed his lineup yet, Ant, but if he keeps it the way it is, he does have Trey Benson. It's a great pickup. I think he's had him. So, that's really good to use. To have Trey Benson, the replacement for Connor. He's got A.J. Brown. So, and then guess what? He's also, he's got Mixon coming back soon. Hopefully, he may not. I mean, looks like they declined to answer if whether Mixon will suit up this season. So, if the way that the Texans are playing, if they're going to play this poor, they might as well just not use them. So, we'll see what happens. I'm probably going to lean the way towards Tybo in this, though. Um, I just think that, you know, with the Lions playing Cleveland, they are going to absolutely dominate. So, Tybo, I'm going to lean your way against Ant. All right, moving on to the next matchup. Wow, look at this matchup here. It is 62% to 38% currently. Yeah, this is so far not looking good for these are just projections. You never know. But looking at the matchups here, we got Mahomes, Cook, Chubb, Puka. Very solid team. I'm really liking Corey's team here. This is a great team he's got. So, looking at the matchups too, you got going up against Tennessee, Colts. Okay, Roma Dunes against the Raiders. Good. Looking at Trayvon's team. Jamar Chase, Chase Brown against Denver. That's going to be rough. Ayamanor. His only saving grace he's got really is if like Rashee Rice comes back, soon. He'll come back in about 3 weeks, 5, 6, 7. He should be back week 7. So our only hope is that for Trayvon, is that he comes back and starts balling. But Chase Brown's on the the downswing too. It's really rough for Trayvon right now. But with Jamar Chase, you really never know. But I'm definitely heavily going to lead the way on Corey winning this matchup this week. So we will see what happens. But hey, listen, when you got Brock Bowers and Jamar, you really never know. All right, moving on. Next matchup, Don Cheadle Forever taking on the Bubble Bass. Pretty close matchup here, 53-47. They're projecting. Actually, I wanted to go back. 136 projection for Corey really quick, though. That is. Jesus, it's crazy. Moving on here. So, after the trade went through for Shane and I, we have Javonte and Xavier Worthy. He's got a Bill on his bench there. So, definitely upgrade to Shane. We'll see if those players can match up to what Hampton can do with Javonte and Worthy. If Worthy's healthy, hopefully he doesn't re-injure himself. Can Javonte continue being a fantasy stud here? We'll see. But that Broncos defense is huge there. Moving on over to BMAC's side. Josh Allen should absolutely feast, by the way. Yeah. Gibbs against Cleveland. Whew. Then you got Egbuka, Egbuka right now is going to he's gonna be the guy pretty much with Mike Evans out, because they're gonna take it easy with Godwin. So Egbuka is going to be the guy. They'll probably have to rely a lot more on Bucky now with that out, because Baker they love that pass heavy offense. So we'll see what happens. Going up against Philly too. So yeah. And Judkins, welcome back Judkins. He will be the starting. They officially named him the starter, which we all knew it would happen when he would come back. So great to see Judkins, and this is a good team for the Bubble Bass here. I like the squad. Even with Kamara on the bench and Ridley. So, looking at the matchups though, Cleveland, Indiana, Philly, Carolina, Detroit, Saints, Miami, Green Bay, San Francisco, Tampa Bay. Okay, those are some tough matchups, especially like Green Bay for Javonte, San Francisco for BTJ. Although San Francisco did lose Nick Bosa, so that's a big one. The Rams, Tyler Warren, Baltimore, Worthy. So I will probably have to lean a little bit towards BMAC here. just because of like matchup base. So we'll see what happens. And moving on to our final matchup, we have Daniel Dones taking on Bishop Sycamore here. Vinny taking on Nick. Can Vinny do it? Can Vinny break the 0-3 curse and get his first win? They are literally deadlocked, 50-50, with a 0.5% chance that Vinny wins. This is it. This has got to be Vinny's got to get his first win here. Otherwise, 0-4 would be very bad. Just got to say. All right, so looking at here, we got Herbert, Achane, Warren, Smith, Scadaboo. Scadaboo now going to be leading the Giants. That's a great flex play. Zay Flowers, Jackson Smith, very good. I like it. It's a great lineup you got there, Nick. And look it over to Vinny. It's tough, man, for Vinny. I'm telling you, it's been rough. He's had some high-scoring games. It's just that would have beaten out everybody else, but Saquon, McCaffrey's. Oh yeah, Drake May against Carolina, Jacksonville, McCaffrey. You know what? I think that Vinny's going to get his first win. I think Vinny will get his first win, and then everybody will have a win here. So it definitely looks promising, but it's super even. This is the one deadlock game where it's like, we'll see what happens. But, yeah. So, everyone, in conclusion, I just wanted to note that this is the last week before bye weeks. So, for those of us who've started out very good, that's great. But for those, with bye weeks are super important. This is where depth comes into play. So, once the bye weeks start, it's a matter of, who's got, that's where your bench comes into play. So, it's been a good first 4 weeks so far. First 3 weeks. Our fourth week's coming up tomorrow. I believe the Thursday night game is the Cardinals and the Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, Cardinals Seahawks. So should be a fairly good game. And we'll see what happens. But everyone, thank you for tuning in to Week 4's episode. It might be a little bit longer than usual just because we had a lot to cover here. A lot happened. So, we will, we'll everyone have a good week. Best of luck to everyone. And, best of luck to Vinny. Hopefully he get his first win. Between Dan and I, best of luck. We'll see. There will be one undefeated team left. And we'll see what happens. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll catch you later, and we'll see you next week for Week 5.